Be already in the shot.
Hello, hello, hello. We are live doing something a little different for you guys. Usually you just kind of see me shitting around, talking for no reason, talking to myself. But this time I'm talking to two other people.
Oh my God. Are you sure? Are you sure you're not imagining us?
Question. I don't know.
Dodge has friends.
Apparently, unlike some other people. But yes. I actually have friends. Some people comment that I have no friends.
What?
Who's the? Well, there's a friend there. Who's that?
And this is Vanessa.
No, the dog. I meant the dog.
Oh yeah.
Not me?
And the dog.
I meant the other bitch.
It's his name. His name is Name.
Name is Name. The nameless name. So we give him name. That's like calling your dog.
Yeah.
Yes,
dog.
exactly. And then I'll refer to him and I'll be like dog. I'll just be like the dog.
Dog.
And he's
Just
moving
the dog.
computer, but that's okay.
I call my dog the dog. I don't love it, but you know.
Nice.
Oh, hi, bud.
I like it.
Dog.
I
You
like
want to
it.
sit up here?
Go
Hey, just
dog.
sit. You want to sit?
You wanna
Then we're
sit,
good.
buddy?
Hey,
Actually-
sit.
Actually, more than anything, I'd probably call her, hey.
Hey, that's what I do. Hey.
Hi, Bubba.
I think she thinks that's her name. Hey, get
May
over
very well be.
Where is she now?
He wants to get in the action. And it's fun because usually I stream, you can't really see the dog. I mean, you see the dog when you can't see me, but you rarely see us at the same
It's
time.
either you or the dog.
Yes, it's either me or the dog. Yeah, we got to.
So how do you get it? How do you get into this crazy conversation, Dodge?
That's a great question. Well, Vanessa's asking me about that. First, I'll set this up and remark who I'm with. We're with Daniel Mustard, who has a really interesting history in Scientology. Another fun, interesting side story is he was sort of discovered on Opie and Anthony doing a badass cover of Creed, right?
Yep.
If I'm not
World's
mistaken.
greatest cover. That's what they tell me.
That's what thousands of people say.
That's what it's tagged as. I did not do that. But
It's not inaccurate. So subscribe to Daniel if you can. We'll
'Cause I'm a
talk about
creep.
a lot of interesting things. You did the Scientology school. You had an experience when you were young in that regard. Even I'll ask you about this later, but I thought it was kind of cool. You even met David Mayo, which to me, the what could have been in terms of the heads of Scientology.
I didn't know who he was. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about him. But,
Right, and that's a conversation we'll have, which maybe is that why Miscavige got to be number one, because he made sure everybody knew who he was. But yeah, so we'll start with that, and then I'm with Vanessa Larose,
Welcome.
who I decided to come by and say hello to in my drive back from Flagstaff en route to LA, and she knew that I was on the way, so yeah, it all kind of worked out nicely.
So the West Coast gets together.
Yes.
And then here comes the East Coast. So be foul mouthed about it.
Yes,
There you
and
go.
here comes the East Coast. And then you were curious, Daniel, about my story. And Vanessa,
How did you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she was asking me, and I guess you never know who knows or not. So we have about 29 people watching at the moment. So many of you guys have already heard this story, so forgive me. But long story short, I used to be a local TV news anchor, and I was an anchor in Yuma, Arizona. So really, it's like a bumfuck city of 100,000 people. And after Lisa Marie Presley died, the mainstream narrative on her was that she was a great artist and she died. I kind of felt like a big part of her legacy should have been that she had the guts to testify against Danny Masterson in the trial. She was originally put on the witness list for the first trial. That got rejected, but then she was going to be on for the retrial, and she even gave her testimony. So I just simply wanted to add, as a news anchor, that despite the fair game and the repercussions, she was going to testify against Masterson because she was best friends with one of the Jane Does 20 years ago. And she was told by Scientology to tell her friend not to go to the police. So she felt a lot of guilt about that and essentially wanted to right her wrong. And I thought that was pretty cool. And that she, despite the career damage, despite the repercussions that she might get, she was still willing to go to bat for justice and for what was right. Then long story short, I put it up on YouTube. I put it up on, because we could clip our clips and put them up in different places, put them up on YouTube, put up a print edition. And Corinne Powell, who's the chief spokesperson, calls me and she says, "Oh, all this stuff about Scientology, I don't know where you got it." And I kind of played dumb in the beginning. And I say, and she said it was religious bigotry and it seemed like I was attacking them. So I essentially tell her I'll take it down. And then she calls me. I don't take it down. I ignore her. She goes to my station. She tells the station either fire me or they'll sue. And there's no in between. I even offered to sign an NDA. So it's not like I'm that brave. I even offered to, not talk about them. I could be suspended without pay for a month. It didn't matter. So they made an enemy out of me because they had to take it all the way where I would have to be terminated. After that, I was on with, I connected with Tony.
So wait. So they came at you for wanting to include this part of her Presley's story. That's it. That's all you did. Okay. That's all. You're such a provocateur, Josh. My goodness. Oh my goodness. What did you do?
He got fired for trying to.
That's insane. That's insane. And you see how fucking creepy these people are. You see how coercive they are. You see how fucking up your ass they can be. I'm sorry, Dodge. I swear a lot. I hope that's okay.
I fucking swear all the time. So
I swear like a sailor. It's ridiculous. No, and then also I'm already offended by this whole it's a religious bigotry. The notion of Scientology as a religion is offensive to me and anyone who actually believes in anything. It's not. It's very much not. It never was. Even when they started claiming it in the beginning, we all knew it was a big open joke. No, it's not a religion. Children like her and I, though, we somehow got tricked into believing in something nonetheless.
We didn't know better.
We didn't know any better.
Yeah, but you can see.
Could you imagine worshiping to the god of self-help or something? It's like, who's that big giant guy who sells self-improvement courses or something? Could you imagine?
You're like Tony Robbins?
Yeah, imagine thinking, Tony Robbins is your guy. So, it's a crazy thing to believe in. But it is offensive to call it a religion. To say that's religious bigotry is just dumb.
Yeah,
in my opinion. There's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and just a comment, guys. Usually I have an open chat. When somebody else is on there, there's going to be more controlled. So just FYI, and then Daniel also has the ability to delete or block whatever he would like to. So
okay. No, both of the trolls I've met before. I've responded to their trolliness as much as I'm
well,
going
if you can handle it, then by all means.
Yes, we are chronic thieves and boyfriend punchers here in this club. That is what happens, and that's just how it goes.
And obviously, I love Pokemon.
Well, I was like,
it's not even about that. It's about weirdly enough. It's just I do believe in not the notion of accepting rumors truth as being a bad thing. So people are going to talk their talk, and I'm sure it's lovely to talk, but no amount of this is going to convince me of anything. Cool. Certainly not to think any less of Vanessa, which is what they're trying to do, and so they're failing at their purpose. So, it's overt product all around.
But, this is just something interesting to talk about. Only that this is how Zero Dark Tony operates. And I just... No,
Zero Tone 40 we call him now. We don't even say that anymore. We don't even say his real handle because my pun is better than his, and that's the best way to get at him. It's the best way to fuck with him. My pun is better than his. Zero Tone 40 is much better.
Yes, but just remember, most accusations against most SPTV creators, the root is Zero Dark Tony. So you really have to take everything with a grain of salt. And that other people have been in communication with him, and that was a thing, and there could have been a lot of misunderstanding or mess up, but it originated from ZDT. And I think if we all have beef with ZDT, we're all on the same side, and we all realize that he just makes up shit out of complete thin air.
Thank you, Fat Grammy. Yeah, well, that's I believe is his business. That's the job these days for a lot of people like him, content creators. Let's see what we can make up. And then that becomes the constant accusation for everything. Yes. That's what, he's just trying to create content. It's just clickbait, and that could be everything. You could be literally strangling me, and they claim it was clickbait.
Yeah, right.
So, hey, no.
They're just worried about you, Dodge.
Yeah, well, thanks, guys. Well, you're being an asshole. If you're worried about me and you're still being an asshole, you're still being an asshole. I'm sorry. And it's fun to bring to the table because it's all of this is based on, think about it. All of this is based on one supposed singular event with a fucking card. So if you think that's the biggest deal in the world, that's on you. But again, you have control.
Rumors gonna be rumors, you guys.
Rumors gonna be rumors.
And if nobody's talking about you, then you're pretty fucking boring. How about that?
Exactly. That means you're making it a difference. Yeah. Well,
you're getting in people's craw.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of the gravity that you've had, or that the shit that you've had to deal with both of you guys, Vanessa was telling me that there was a real, I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but that there was a real concerted effort to pretty much try to silence you. So do people actually follow you and everything, and the whole kit and caboodle?
Yeah, in LA. It was a situation that started to become really overwhelming, to be honest.
Did they ever do that with you, Daniel? After you
No, I wish they would. I wish they would, because I'm a ballsy asshole. I'd like walk up to them and like, you know, lick their cheeks or something, do weird things, sing songs at them. You know what I mean? Like, I wish they would. I love it. I love a troll. Trolls are silly, and trolls think I'm cool. So you know,
That's
I can
cool.
really fuck. I can really.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like the Opie and Anthony audience is kind of trollish. Not to malign anybody, but like, you know, the kind of guys that are into that kind of thing are also the kind of guys who tend to listen to something like Opie and Anthony, and they think I'm mad cool because I'm the creep who, you know, I'm the homeless guy who sings creep. So I get a lot of points. I get a lot of points in weird places. You know, and there is a, you know, like, I don't know. I wish, you know, it'd be funny. I think it'd be funny. I did see some of these guys trolling Katie Holmes years ago when she first left, when she first ditched the guy. What's his name? The guy that jumps out of buildings. What's his name again? Oh, that's it. That's it. All right, I have to get up and get this shoe away from her. Hold on a second. What are you doing?
All right, do your thing.
Just over here, like taking all the valuables.
Yeah, you guys are so obsessed with this one thing.
You guys are seriously ridiculous.
I'm just glad I have pants on.
It's like, it's a fucking okay. Get in and steal it, but who gives a shit? It's a fucking Pokemon card.
Yeah, I didn't steal anything.
No, you know,
that is funny, DOA. Pokemon lives matter.
Look, I you know, I don't know. Needs must as the devil drives, as my ex-mother-in-law used to say. I've stolen a lot of things in my life, you know, and sometimes you need to steal things, and that doesn't justify anything. And also, sometimes ex-Scientologists are paranoid and think things are happening that aren't really happening. Yes. So both those things are true sometimes, and we, the collective me and everybody on this thread, doesn't really know the truth. So it's really just masturbation to keep going on.
I'm curious. Actually, this is fun. Fuck it. For anybody that's in the chat, have you ever seen a police report? Have you ever seen any tangible anything? All you are is trusting one person, and she might be good intention, but just might have been confused or perhaps under the influence of Zero Dark Tony. You know,
not for nothing, but I myself have accused somebody of stealing something that I just misplaced. You know, so that has happened to me. I've done that, and I wouldn't, you know, and it's not like it's the worst thing to do, but I think it's hard to back away from.
It is, and you guys are just throwing this shit out there because of something that originated from Zero Dark Tony, but you've not seen any tangible proof of anything. And at least with ZDT, with his eviction stuff, with whatever, with his kid, there's a paper trail of proof that comes along with it, which is why I feel, and people who dislike him feel, more comfortable in throwing that shit at him because they could actually back it up. And somebody did note that there's a lot of DOA trolls. I have a lot of fans who are also fans of DOAs who might be a troll towards you. So always look at the reflexive side that somebody might be on. And I hope it's just some people commenting. You're calling Liz? Nobody's calling Liz a liar.
Nobody's calling Liz a liar.
I'm calling Liz a liar, actually.
Okay. Cool.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah, Liz definitely.
I'm trying to assume that you didn't take the card, Vanessa, and I'm trying to give Liz the benefit of the doubt in suggesting it was a mistake that she doesn't know how to back out of. Like sometimes you get
and confused a lot of people, and so maybe she doesn't know how to back out of it, but I tried so hard to help Liz Ferris. So the fact that anything negative came out of her mouth about me, it's really heartbreaking, to be honest. So it is what it is.
I know my mother once accused somebody of stealing something falsely to get rid of a house guest.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, like, none of us really what happened here. Say what?
No,
and this was a relative too.
And that's the other thing with Liz, she could very well feel that her card was stolen, and she could have had a multi-hour-long conversation with ZDT where he brings in this evidence, stirs the pot, says, I heard X, Y, and Z. And she feels like she is honestly You might disagree, but she might feel she is honest. She honestly feels it was stolen.
Yeah.
But then you look at the backgrounds and the people at that moment, not that she's still communicating with him, but at that moment, you look at the background and you see where it comes from, and it comes from a liar.
Yeah.
Is all I'm saying.
That's the funny thing. I actually half asked somebody about the Liz Ferris thing, and they then told me a whole different story about Liz Ferris lying about something completely different that had nothing to do with you or Pokemon cards. So like, you know, because wasn't specific. I just said I didn't know there was going to be another thing. So that to me kind of makes me go, well, okay. But that's not proof of anything.
These comments are making me laugh. So
hide your kids, hide your wife.
Direct look at them, respond. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's
no, I don't mind.
I'm sure, for people watching.
But like this, you know, like the Granny T person just comes off like it's such a ditz. Some of these people are clever with their trolling. I love a clever troll. I applaud cleverness, even when it's nasty.
Yeah. So, and guys, thank you for the super chats.
Yeah.
Keep them coming. I'll still take your money. Whatever.
That Grammy's great.
Just make fun of me all day. Just keep sending him super chats. We're totally cool.
The last thing I want to say before we talk about the substance, because at some point I'm just going to put the chat to the side.
It's fun. I don't know. I think.
Well,
it's
you
fun.
were having a good time. Fuck it. You know?
What should we talk about? Do we have questions?
Well, I want to ask you a little about your story.
What does Miss Withhold mean? Is it true?
I don't even know what Miss Withhold is.
So you do something and then
when you do something and then you're mad at them for whatever.
Yeah.
Like projecting.
It's a dumb Scientology term.
I like it.
It's a dumb Scientology term for childish behavior.
I don't know if I'll get to wear one. I don't know if I have a chance or not.
Vanessa's kind of sexy.
A nice comment.
There's a bunch of nice comments. There's a bunch of you just can't see them all because they're going a mile a minute.
I'm being blinded.
And this is the most wild, crazy chat ever.
Free chat is fun. Who needs moderators? Just yell at the chat all day. Oh, somebody lost their loyal supporter. Not so loyal after all.
Dodge getting red. Yeah, you can see it in my face. If I get red, my skin is so pale.
Oh yeah, I get red too, but you get red. I see you. I do. I recognize the red face man, the red face white man. I recognize.
For real. We exist.
So are we supposed to talk about Scientology? What do you want to know about Scientology? It's evil. Scientology is an evil cult. I wanted to do a whole
focus on, right? Everybody.
I wanted to do a side. She said you were political, so I thought we could do a side by side. I thought we could do a side by side comparison of L. Ron Hubbard and Donald Trump.
Oh, I kind of love that. Okay, you were talking about this with Vanessa
because they're practically the same guy.
Well, but that's a fun thing. Do you think Miscavige is more like Trump or more like Nixon? Because I feel like he's smart.
JD Vance. Talk about a guy who wouldn't know what to do in a donut shop.
Yeah, that was
wait, what were you asking me, Nixon? Because he's much more paranoid.
He's more like Trump or Nixon.
He's much more paranoid, but malignant narcissists are always paranoid. Reagan was super paranoid too. Republicans seem to be always paranoid, except George W. Bush, because he wasn't smart enough to be paranoid.
No.
He had Dick Cheney to worry about that. What was the question now? Do I compare him closer to Nixon? Well, certainly Nixon is known for all the secret recordings. So that certainly aligns more with Miscavige, the mischievous Miscavige, as I like to call him.
I like that.
Does anybody have any Scientology related questions?
Well, all right, so I wanted to, I guess.
Here's what I think is funny. They're disappointed in you, Dodge, for not automatically passing judgment. That's what they're disappointed in. How dare you still be friends with somebody who was accused of something? Not proven, not even I don't even know the broader conversation, but just an accusation. And how dare you not toss her aside immediately upon hearing such words? How dare you? What is the matter with you, Dodge? Oh my goodness. You are not keeping Scientology working, Dodge.
I promise. Although
Yeah, right.
Granny's disappointed, and it hurts because Granny's giving me a lot of money. So, Granny, to you specifically, I am sorry.
Oh,
I
Granny
saw him
T.
in our chat the other day.
Okay.
Yeah,
Trolling
Granny
a
T was trolling us the other day.
Granny, I still love you. Keep that money coming. I'm kidding. I still do love you, Granny. I will say this, and I've had a very similar argument before when I had Mitch Brisker on.
Oh.
And that was
Oh, you had Mitch Brisker on. Okay.
I did. And that was the interview that started a war.
Yeah.
Essentially, because everybody was mad at me for not pushing back on Mitch, for saying that kids were not. Oh, I got an XO from Granny. We're still cool. Love you, Granny. But yeah, so I got a lot of guff for just talking with him and not pushing back as much as I could have
about the kids in the Sea Org.
About the kids in the Sea Org. Now he's clarified a lot of that with Nora, and
Nora has beat his face in about it. Tell me what you meant.
But it takes that initial conversation, and the one thing is,
I got to give it to Mitch. I got to give it to Mitch. Of all the olds, he has really he keeps coming back to the conversation, and that's really stand up. And it's certainly more than any of the other old guys.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And he's done his best. But as I've always said, anybody who's had involvement in Scientology, their story is worth telling. And I know, I don't believe it. And I know that's not what happens anyway. But who are we to judge? As long as, Edwin Edwards used to say, he was the governor of Louisiana, and they can never get him in jail. He had all these tax issues. And he said the only way they would get me is if they catch me in bed with a dead woman or a live boy. Meaning things are
how very Republican.
Yeah.
Right. Very, yes. Meaning, I say that gross analogy because people appreciated Edward despite the tax fraud, despite all of that. People felt like Edwards delivered back for his district. Poverty went down. Education went up. Louisiana had been doing better economically. New Orleans got turned into a tourist city because of his efforts. So did they really care about his tax fraud stuff? No, they looked at the bigger picture. So even if the Pokemon thing was true, did she ever harass anybody? Did she ever shoot anybody? Did she ever say anything mean to anybody? Did she ever try to get anybody fired from their job? Did she ever try to separate a child from their parent? Yeah. Did she ever make death threats? Did she ever make any other type of threats? And all of you are so focused on this like a little piece of paper. And I get, for Liz, that stuff is sacred to her, and I get that. And there's a lot of value.
I've seen no evidence of any grifting from any party. I'm slow to pass judgment. And even if I thought she stole the card, I would not think less of it. That's all.
That's not what happened. But so what? And if it was, who gives a shit? That's not what it is. And yes, there's some comments here saying there's no proof.
There's no proof. There was an accusation that may or may not have been induced from somebody from the only other thing I know is some other story where she said something she shouldn't have said to somebody she shouldn't have said it. Right. So I don't know Liz well enough to speak too much more about it. And that's the point. Like, what am I gonna argue with more people who don't know enough about none of us know.
This is about
Thank you, Rio for Life, Kim D. I appreciate that.
I just want to recomment from CDO Brown because he is a ZDT supporter, but we're tight. He says, "Wow, Dodge, he went from a legitimate journalist to the gutter." What I love about CDO Brown is he says this intermittently, and then I'll do a video and he'll compliment me and his faith in my journalistic integrity be restored. And then I'll do another video and then he'll say, "You went from a journalist to the gutter." And then I'll do another video and he'll be happy with my work. And then I'll do another one and he'll say the same thing. So
can't make everyone happy.
You can't please everybody, right?
Still love you.
You can only please. You can't please everybody. You can't only please some of the people some of the time, whatever. There's some stupid phrase I'm trying to bring up. I don't remember it. You'll learn the hard way, Dodge. About the red flag.
Aren't I? Yep.
She is. Annette, here, there's a real question. Yeah, Jeanette, or Annette, rather. She is an ex-Scientologist. Vanessa and I both were born in Scientology. Our parents were very devout people. I was actually born in the Sea Org. and was very lucky that shortly after I was born, they changed the rules and kicked all the mothers out with small children. Stupidly, my brother's mother went back. My mother wanted to go back too, but they wouldn't let her.
That's interesting, huh?
Well, I think she made more money for them on the outside.
Okay.
She was working her ass off all my life. And everybody, the assumption was she was doing that for me, but it wasn't for me. It was for them.
It was all for. So
but I had to bear the brunt of being blamed for it.
So
what was that?
Your parents were like real career people in the Sea Org, if I'm not mistaken.
My father, my father ran away from home when he was a teenager and joined a cult. Wow. Like past generations used to run away and join the circus. He joined a cult. And he was, a hippie of his generation. He was very, very, like I say a lot about that generation of people. They were all like kind of seeking some sort of new way of life after, there was the World War II and the early boomers, and then Vietnam and that, and the whole 60s, right, as civil rights and all that, and people just wanted to they were trying to find something else. A lot of people ended up in Jonestown. We could have ended up in Jonestown, Vanessa.
Yeah, it's the same type of people. It was those same kind of hippie new age looking for.
It was all the same kind of people.
Well, it's interesting.
Timothy Leary too, and Charles Manson. All these people factor into this story.
Interesting. Well, it's interesting. You said an Aaron's thing, which is really fascinating to me, that there was a real division of time when it went from kind of being the free age, new age, hippie stuff to David Miscavige turning it corporate.
Yeah.
Could you see that? You were probably super young. Like, do you remember Scientology pre-Miscavige at all?
Yeah.
And the vibe.
That's my only real fond memory. That's the only things I want to remember about it is the stuff that happened before Miscavige.
Is that much better?
I remember saying, well, the people were better. The system wasn't any better, but the people who were interested in that at that time were better. And they kept declaring those people. Those people were constantly being they were squirrels. That was the commonality, was all the people you liked who were making sense. Because as Vanessa and I have talked about, you spend a lot of time making sense of his nonsense, but there's a certain intellectuality to that, I guess. Yeah. And so the people who knew how to make sense of it, I guess, were the people I was impressed by. I love that. I don't know. That's an art comment. That's so funny. If Danny had a job, he would.
Oh, they're talking. See, everybody hates everybody.
Yeah.
There's a segment of people who hate this guy named Danny, who's an active, committed protester.
Not you.
Okay.
Not you. Danny is different than Daniel. So this is like the troll.
Well, in California, people still call me Danny.
There you
people
go.
in California still call you.
I still call him Danny.
What if they're the same people? You never know.
Yeah.
So does Jamie. Jamie still
calls
calls me Danny.
Conspiracy theory, so everybody in the chat can just regurgitate it.
I just saw my name suddenly in bold. I was like, hey.
No, it wasn't about you. It was the other one. Danny's like the nicest dude in the world. Like literally the nicest guy.
So of course somebody picks on him.
Yeah. Well, no, even not. Like he's so polite. Like I have to do it. And everybody else has to do it. But that's like how hilarious. Like my stream is completely open. So there's no mods. There's nothing. And every time somebody talks smack about Danny, who's the most active protester, who's one of the most committed, who's currently Scientology is trying to get a restraining order against him. So it just goes to show the more effective you are, the more attention you get, you're reflexively going to get a certain amount of shit talk.
Yeah.
And even though this has nothing to do with Danny, you still have a segment of people talking about him for no reason.
Well, like the user's name was Danny don't got a job. And then the comment was if he had a job, he'd prove it. I was like, whoa, that's deep. What were we talking about before Danny?
We're so wild.
Yeah.
Okay, we are talking about we're talking about the transition. So that's
from the hippies. Yeah, back in the day, there was some great hippie dippy type folk. They were groovy people, and that's more for kind of California, I guess, than it is Scientology. But it's that ilk again, seekers, people looking for something new, interesting, something better than the mainstream middle class American blah 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 blah. Right. So there was a big rejection of that. Obviously, in the '60s, that's half of what it's about. little boxes, that stuff, right? And those people, I like those people. But they all got declared.
A lot of them got removed.
or whatever, shipped away something, the groovy people were all gone. And then at a certain point, I remember noticing, and I would have said at the time that Scientology was stuck in conservatism. Like Scientology got really super conservative. And it wasn't, it was, the Scientologists were famous for their beer and wine parties, and they were famous for some debauchery too, way back in the day. And then it all got super tight, and you're not even allowed to kiss in the stairwell anymore. And that's just, the harder you try to maintain control, the more everything starts to pressure cooker and try to burst out of your fingertips.
What do you think it is now? Do you have any feeling? It seems like it's mostly pretty conservative. And I heard that
it's super conservative, and it's totally corporatized. And, David Miscavige very much got in the business of buying up real estate and building a sort of whatever you want to call it, an empire or something. I don't know, because he doesn't really own anything because it's whatever. So whatever, but he controls it all.
They have to spend the money.
Right. And that's the loophole they use to spend the money, is buying real estate under the guise of orgs are going to be useful or helpful to the community. And of course, they never even open the stupid orgs, and they're not even helpful to the community when they do. It's all a big lie. It's not a religion. Revoke their tax fucking exemption. I feel like a politician. That's my talking point. Revoke their tax exemption. Revoke their tax exemption.
Yeah.
That's the way to get at them. It's all about the money. If you're gonna, understand it, it's all financially, it's all profit driven to begin with. So go for the profits.
Well, I do wonder, is it the tax exemption that created the first spark of conservatism? Because of we should have less taxes, less government imposing on us. And I wonder,
I think it might have been kind of the pretense of religion, because in order to get that tax exemption, we had to pretend to be a religion. I think that's where the rules started getting weirder and harder and more constricted. I mean, I don't really know all that. I don't know for sure, but
we're super anti-government as a group.
Right, which is conservative.
Yeah.
Right. Anti-big government, right? Anti-government until you need government, right? They used to raid the IRS offices and stuff. They used to do crazy shit. They harassed the IRS people, the guy who ran the place, they sued all of them. And then according to Rathbun, they just walked in there one day and was like, look, this is costing you a lot of fucking money. Just give us what we want. Like a total gangster shakedown, old school gangster shakedown.
Interesting.
And that sounds about right. That certainly aligns with what I thought I understood at the time. For me, it's a lot of overhearing conversations I'm not even supposed to be listening to.
Right.
So when I was a kid, but that seems to align with what I know happened. And there were other people who were supposed to take over. It wasn't even supposed to be him. There was a husband and wife. You remember their name, Turner.
Pat Nanny Broker. Yeah.
Pat Nanny what?
Broker.
Broker. That's it. Broker. Yeah. Right.
Well,
they were supposed to take over, and he, it's a coup. It was a literal coup.
Well, I was going to ask you. So the last thing you said, you met David Mayo. What did people think about him? Because wasn't he ostensibly, didn't L. Ron?
It was after the fact. He had been in the building.
Oh, really?
He had lived in the building at some point. This is the Shangri-La. This is the epicness of the Shangri-La. Everybody passes through there. And I wasn't until he was long gone that in hindsight, people were saying, oh, remember him? He was that guy. But I don't even remember what he did. I just know that he got declared really he was the most sort of identified as SP that I had ever understood. And when we were kids, you understand the SP was a boogeyman, was an evil, not just a bad guy who did bad things, but evil in their soul, a different kind, the ultimate othering. They have a different kind of spirit, different kind of Thetan, right? They're not really whatever they are. So I didn't know him. I just vaguely remember that he had been there at some point, and we knew that later after the fact.
He got blamed for everything.
So when you saw him, he was almost like a shell. He didn't have authority. He didn't.
No, what do you mean?
When he
was in the Sea Org?
Or even after. So you said you were in the same building as him?
The Shangri-La is the building across the street from CC International.
Okay.
And for reasons various, lots of people come through there and are there for this, that, or the other reason. They used to, people would do auditing sessions in apartments. People would do the crazy rundown. What's the thing where somebody's having a mental break and they lock them up? They would do that in our apartments. They
Yeah.
did the convalescent
Introspective
hospice,
rundown.
dropping your body bullshit in our building. What?
The introspective rundown.
That, okay. You know, I don't know. Again, I was too young to really know him, but to know exactly what why he was there or what his presence was necessarily, except ominous. And it was really just the sort of thing that people were talking about after the fact.
Right.
But I don't even remember the story of David Mayo. I just remember it because it's Mayo and Mustard, because my name's Mustard. That's mostly why I even fucking remember the guy's name, honestly. And I met another guy named Mayo once years ago, and I went on about this thing.
He got blamed for like ruining the religion. Like they said, you know, anybody who got audited by him had to be handled.
Right, but see, that's what it was supposed to be. They have moved the goalpost, Vanessa.
Yeah.
The SP is still that same. You know what I mean? Like the first time there was an earthquake or the first time there was a school shooting, it was like the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah.
Now they happen every other week, and they're not ignored. But it's you know like I don't think he was any worse a squirrel as any of the other people who were declared squirrels. I don't know though. But what they said he did, Vanessa, would you believe that? Is
I
that
don't
true?
believe it at all, because I've read different stories now, and he was really like allegedly a good guy who was trying to get, you know, it kind of back to how LRH wanted.
Right.
It.
And that's a consistent theme amongst a lot of the men in particular I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That was the mentality was, and that was also my mentality too, was you take what you learn and then you do something with it. And that's what those guys wanted to do.
Yeah.
And no, the church didn't like that because then they can't copyright that the same way. You know, if you make it your own, then you can you do something else with it. MK Ultra style.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, they did not like that. That was probably what I'm talking about. That's probably what that's really the transition was when they started clamping down on guys like that who thought they had their own ideas.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to have your own ideas. And again, this is the mistake of taking it seriously. These are people who took the theology and took the bullshit. They took it seriously. They wanted to do something with it. They wanted to help people for real. And then the institution that knows better, that knows they're just fucking with you, goes, you can't do that. You got to stay here. And we got to keep fucking with you, right?
Yeah. I wanted to ask a question by the great Jack Parsons in the chat. Hello, Mr. Parsons. Mr. Mustard, we all know him, but probably different Jack Parsons. Mr. Mustard, when did you blow? Interesting. Did you ever know Bob Minton? I believe you did. So do you want to tell the story of Bob Minton? How do I pronounce his name?
I don't know who that is. Bob who? I don't know that one.
Minton. He was just another exec back in the day.
Oh, I don't think I knew him.
Oh, I thought you
said I knew Dr. Dank. That's a more interesting connection.
That's who's doctor? Is that Scientologist?
He was L. Ron doctor.
He was L. Ron Hubbard's doctor.
Yeah, Dr.
Dank. D-E-N-K, not Dank. Not D. Everybody else said Dr. Dank. Yeah, Dankweed. No, Dank. D-E-N-K. He
knew his doctor, that's cool.
I didn't know this Bob person though.
Okay. Bob Minton. Well, he mentioned it. Well, how do you blow? Your story's fascinating because didn't you sort of choose living on the street over continuing to be a Scientologist? Was almost that fork in the road?
It's so not that simple, but
I doubt it.
It's a weird story because I was born of a generation of Scientology people who thought they were going to birth a generation of Scientology reincarnated people who were going to be OT from the womb and not have to learn anything or be trained in anything and this kind of stuff. So it was a very, so I ended up just sort of, whatever. It was a very hands-off parenting process. I don't know how to put this exactly because I never joined the Sea Org. And that seems to be the thing that people really identify as what it means to join up. Even in the conversation between Sea Org people and non-Sea Org people, public as we're called, there is a divide. And a judgment and shade. And there's there's a caste system there, right? Again, something I knew nothing about until recently. You know what I mean? Like I had no idea they were all looking down on me for not joining the Sea Org, except my mother. My mother was very disappointed.
Say what? Like not being a Mormon missionary, where if you were not a Mormon missionary, like your name was mud. So if you don't like join a Mormon missionary
and go do the knocking on doors stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. And the thing is, though, the conflict I had, and I am starting to really understand, is this issue of faith. I'm recognizing intellectually, I understand that Scientology is not a religion. What are you smiling at?
Somebody asked if I raided Danny Bonaducci's closet. And
I love this shirt. Don't you fuck with that. That's a great
it's
shirt.
not inaccurate.
Someone sent us a for a new shirt earlier.
Well, Danny Bonaducci. Partridge
Jazzy
Family, Danny
a lot of
Bonaducci.
shit, but Jazzy sends me money, so thank you, Jazzy. Yeah, it is. I love vintage. So this is a 70s style shirt.
It's a cool shirt. It's a
That's
good shirt.
definitely from an era.
Yes, I think I was really born in like 1933.
Yeah.
You should have. Yeah, right. Yeah. I was born the wrong time. It's true.
Right.
So what was I on about? Yeah, I never joined the Sea Org, but I did believe in it. So like I grew up really feeling a lot of shame for not playing along. I compulsively rebelled, but I felt guilty about it the whole time. Do you understand? Like I never said, oh, they're wrong. I thought they were right and I was wrong and I was just fucking up. So whatever that means. So I didn't join the Sea Org, but I grew up right across the street from Celebrity Center and was treated like somebody, like, I don't know, like I was called to their ethics office as though I were a Sea Org member, even though I was not, stuff like that. I was in trouble a lot in the same kind of way. And I continued to work for Scientology companies, kind of Scientology owned and operated companies that ran their companies like Sea Org, like missions or like orgs.
Similar stuff.
So like, what was the question? When did I blow? Like I didn't, again, I didn't know I needed to. I didn't know I was escaping. I didn't know there was something I was running away from. The fact of the matter is I've been running away from it all my life in very slow increments. But it wasn't really until I got across the country, until I came to New York, that I even started to realize there was something wrong with that, because living on the streets was better.
So interesting. You came to
safer.
New York, you came to New York and you consider yourself still a Scientologist at that moment.
No, I don't think so. I don't think I would have identified as a Scientologist, but in the same way, a lapsed Catholic kind of always feels Catholic.
Right. Did you feel a new sense of freedom when you were out there?
I felt safe. I felt safer. And I was learning, I think, amongst the homeless, how to, know people, how to connect with people in a way that I didn't understand I was missing, because, again, it's everybody's doing this game. Everybody's playing this sort of weird disassociative game all the time. And when you're a child, you have no idea. You have no idea there's anything going on. You think they're right and they're normal and there's something wrong with you that you don't get the game.
And it's a snitch culture, so it's really hard to get close to people.
And they don't encourage it. Close personal ties are not encouraged, presumably for spiritual freedom reasons, but really it's for mind control reasons. And again, the snitch culture, the KR, the knowledge report, which is presumably, in a friendly group where everybody's getting along and nobody has any, beef or nothing. Maybe, the idea is, if your friend is messing up, you want to tell your friend, hey, you're messing up, right? But that's not what it is. That's the idea maybe, but what it is totally, you fucked up, and people getting people in trouble and people using KRs to troll each other. You know what I mean? Like we were trolling each other as children, man, with the KR report long before there was social media. You know what I mean? That's a good. The KR, man, is the ultimate troll.
Yeah.
It really was. And that's it. But it gives you this reflexive mindset to kind of tattle and attack on people. It's like that's a virtue. Even when you're a kid, you're not necessarily told by your parents. You're not necessarily told by your parents, like, tattle on people. Obviously, you don't want to get in trouble. But
I've seen parents scold their children for being snitches. Like, that's kind of don't do that. Don't be a tattle. That's not nice. That's weird. It's a fucked up thing to be, even if you're right. No, but you're absolutely taught to be a tattle. There's a bit in the book 1984 when he's fixing this woman's sink across the street, and there's a kid, her son, and he's part of the youth group, the snitch youth group, and he's watching him, and he's so suspicious, and he is guilty, so he feels the kid watching him, right? And that's what we were like. We were this little little snitchy brown shirts. It's horrible. It's a horrible way to be. Horrible.
And you'd get in trouble for not snitching.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Found out
exactly.
you were there, they'd be
Right. If they find out from somebody else's KR or somebody else comes clean about something and auditing, and then they find out that you were involved or that you knew about it and you didn't snitch, yeah, it's a whole nother level of trouble. That's the fucked up part about it, and that's why there is a network of people talking about this, because it is very complicated, and there are lots of bizarre layers to it, and there's lots of specifically different experiences. A lot of everybody seems to is abused by this in a different way, and some people, I think,
it's fascinating that you felt safe on the streets of New York City versus where we came from.
Foolishly, I mean, I got my ass whooped, but I ended up in the hospital a lot. But yeah, I did feel safer. And it's silly because I think about it now, and I was, I was really dumb about it. I'm really, really lucky to be alive in so many ways, because I don't know, and because I didn't realize, but I was fleeing something really horrible and oppressive. So like, just getting out of that, it was like the relief of that. So I didn't have time to process the fear of the new situation until much later. But you do realize that once you do get off the streets, how terrifying all of that really is. But it's just been a life of being chased down by saber-toothed tigers.
Yeah, right. Where you feel more safe on your own. I just want to say, speaking of drama, Aja, who's a protester, commented in the chat.
I just saw that.
Yeah, saying, "Where's my apology?" And then she's going to release some text. She's more than welcome to release the text. I just apologized to her over text, and then she wanted me to do it publicly. Listen, Aja, I respect Aja as a protester. I apologize for saying she was very eager and that can be dangerous, to connect with some dangerous YouTubers. But then she's made comment after comment on Zero Dark Tony's chat, and she's insulted a lot of my friends. So do I need to double apologize to Aja? No, I said I was sorry. I didn't initially say I was publicly sorry. I'm sorry for saying those comments, but she's dug herself deep in terms of not saying really nice things to people that I care about. So if Aja wants to release any sort of text, she has my full permission to do so. That's my statement on that, in case you guys are curious. But yeah, so I'm curious, Daniel, what were the Scientology schools like? Were they like normal schools? Would they put you in there for was it longer? Was it like 10 hours? Did you actually learn anything even semi-relevant?
Well, I'll tell you, when I finally did get into public school, I was way behind. They put me in remedial math classes at first. And then I ended up in advanced placement classes. So they were wrong about that, you see. And what was it like? I don't know. I had a lot of really weird issues with just word clearing, just having that conversation with a word clearer where you're supposed to speak in your own.
Kind of.
There's this sort of there's this obsession with. Okay, so there's obsession in Scientology with getting everything word perfect. You're supposed to learn every word that he spoke or wrote anyway, word perfect, and you're not allowed to pass a lot of the levels until you do.
Every single definition of the word as well.
Right. Every word.
Words like the.
Wow.
And there's a whole process to defining a single word.
Yeah.
And especially when you get to weird little words like as or if.
Yeah.
That have
really? How do you even define that?
That have 30, and they have 32 definitions on top of that. They're words that at first you're I don't have any.
Entire job is to enforce this.
Right. And that's Nora. Oh no, Nora. So
really?
Yeah.
Did you ever meet her when you were?
She remembers me much better than I remember her. I'm still having trouble remembering who she was. I think I know, and I need to talk to her about it because I think I've remembered now who she was. But she certainly remembers me. And she was a staff member at CC who was tasked with the job, one of many, who was tasked with the job of handling Danny Mustard, because it was an embarrassment. My father was on staff there. He was the manager of the Manor Hotel, and then he worked in accounting for a while downstairs. And my mother was the manager of the Shangri Lodge that had this sort of unspoken partnership with them. So yeah, they did not. And see, when I was a child, again, this changeover. So when I was a child, the manor grounds was all run down. and it wasn't like the beautiful hotel chateau go fuck yourself,
Huh.
whatever it's called. The Renaissance was a canteen, literally. And that was my stomping grounds. That was my playground. We that was like a public park to me. I had no idea it belonged to somebody. I mean, it belonged to my church. You know what I mean? So I played there all the time. And there was a big area in the back called the ditch, which is now a waterfall, and it's all pretty bullshit. But it was just a space, and there was a rope swing and stuff like that. And we spent a lot of time in the building and around the building, on the roof. Nora mentioned having her first kiss on the roof of CC.
Oh
I was like,
God.
oh shit. There was like
standing up there. It's so beautiful.
so many things have gone on the roof of CC. If that roof had eyes.
You've seen it, right, Cece?
No.
It's on Franklin Avenue.
Oh yeah. I've seen the structure. I've never seen like what it looks like from the roof or anything. Yeah, but it's cool.
The CC, it was built by William Randolph Hearst.
Oh really?
The
Wow.
little Patty Hearst connection is always fun.
Yeah.
And when Ron bought it, everybody hated it. They thought it was a really dumb idea. It was the white whale. It was whatever. They called it a big burden or whatever. But then at some point they renovated it and made it all fancy hotel and celebrity center and all that to woo in the celebrities.
It was part of his plan to get celebrities in because it had been like an old hotel for the celebrities.
Oh, interesting.
He wanted
PR. It was a PR thing. He was very big into the PR. He understood that. He talked a lot about that. Black PR, bad PR, good PR, all that bullshit. And we all know what PR is. It's just messaging. It's just whatever you want people to believe. It's propaganda.
Has anybody ever stayed? You know anybody who's ever stayed there?
at the hotel.
Yeah.
You have to be a Scientologist to spend the night.
Interesting.
So we used to rent the room as kids and like watch movies, scary movies.
So I always wondered if you go into a hotel and they have TV, is it just David Miscavige on the DirecTV channel, and you flip it, and then it's more David Miscavige.
The Scientology channel.
Yeah,
probably nowadays.
But that's it. So
just volcanoes all night. Just volcanoes all night. And see, that's the imagery I really remember is that goddamn volcano. That was on TV for like legit when I was a kid. And then the renovations, and then they didn't, then all of a sudden the neighborhood kids were a nuisance. They don't want us around. It was this constant complaint about my presence. And then when I started growing my hair long, they really didn't like that. I remember being escorted out of CC one day, and that was the complaint, is that I didn't look up stat. I had long, messy hair. And on the cover of Celebrity Magazine, which is a magazine that they used to publish that featured celebrity Scientology.
They just put out a brand new one.
I know, I heard that, right?
Yeah.
But on the cover of that magazine at the moment was a bass player called Billy Sheeran or Sheen, who was in a band called Big Sir or Big Dude or Mr. Man or Mr. Dude or something. Anyway, they had a pop hit in the mid 90s, in the 90s at some point. And so it was like, I'm standing there and this guy's complaining to me because it's all about my look and I don't look right, whatever it is, because I'm a grungy, long-haired hippie kid, and somebody got on the elevator with that magazine under their shoulder, and I'm staring at this picture of Billy, who's got long, really super frizzy hair, like his, you know what I mean? It's like, how come he gets to be on the cover and I'm not allowed to be in the building?
Celebrity worship was very strong.
Yeah, well, hypocrisies abound. Again, trying to make sense of a nonsensical system. I was beating my head against that a lot growing up.
I'm curious, do you ever meet any of the current celebrities when they were young? You ever get to meet like Michael Pena or even any of the Mastersons?
Oh God, I have met a couple of the Mastersons,
cool.
But we weren't friends or nothing. I was poor. That's the thing also about public and the caste system, right? So there's poor public and there's rich public. So Danny Masterson's mother was a very prominent casting agent in LA. Right. So not only did she have money, but she was powerful and in a Scientological sense, because she can make celebrities. Right. Vonnie Ribisi, I knew him. Oh, wow. Juliet Lewis, I know their whole clan. There's
no shit,
clan.
Really?
There's
yeah, just like 3 or 4 siblings in there. It's crazy, right?
There's Lightfield and Juliet, and they're the children of Jeffrey and Glennis. And then Glennis had 2 more kids. We're not sure I don't know who their fathers are. But they're different. There's Brandy, and presumably the rumor was that she had an affair when she was at Clearwater for her 6-month check. And so the most ethical group on the planet. And then Bo, I don't know where Bo came from. And then she got married to another guy called Batley, and they had 2 more kids, Drew and Quillen, who were who are more close to my
Quillen
age.
is homeless now, sadly.
Damn.
Yeah.
We got to save him. He's worth
still in
saving.
Scientology?
No, but he still believes in some of it because we
Interesting.
tried talking to him and he was very much still in the belief system.
Does he still have like respect for Miscavige, or does he just feel like it's?
We didn't get that far. Yeah.
So there's the thing. I never had respect for Miscavige.
Well, who would?
So that certainly is a turning point
My
for me.
parents.
Is that what who did? Is your parents,
Yes,
right?
yes,
My mother worked very hard to pay that man money he didn't need. Yeah, a lot of people do, and in fact, now apparently they're telling people he's like they're trying to talk about him like he's a god or something. Like they didn't even talk about L. Ron Hubbard that way back then. That was one of the things I really liked about Dr. Dank, because people always asked him about L. Ron Hubbard, and Dr. Dank always talked about him like he was just a man, he was just a guy, he wasn't a god. You know, he didn't like the deifying. He saw it happening in real time, and he didn't like it.
So he wasn't like, man, I did some operation, all these thetans just started spilling out of her. And
Wouldn't that be funny? Wouldn't you love to hear that? Right?
Oh, yeah.
I tapped into his third eye, and Xenu came flying out.
Yeah.
There were people who used to do that, actually drill holes in their head to presumably to access their third eye perception.
No, really?
Yeah, I think people still do it, to be honest. But back in the 70s, people did it a lot. And they were paranoid about fluoride in the water because that apparently builds up a coating that covers up your third eye.
That's where it all started. Cool. Origin story.
These are the old school conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
These
now
go way back.
they're all conspiracy, no theory.
Yes. Here's a fun thing. If it continued in the hippie vibe of the 70s and even early 80s, Miscavige hadn't taken over, A, do you think it would still exist? And B, if it did, do you think it'd be a lot more fun?
Yeah, like we've been joking about how if they led with the Xenu shit, led with the sci-fi stuff instead of keeping it secret.
If they were just
That-
honest about it.
Right. Like that would be more honest. That would be a lot more fun. I think people would be really into that.
Yeah.
But it's all this secret paywall bullshit. Like, yeah, that's religious. Holy.
Paywall.
Pay up.
We call it the wall of fire.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the wall of fire. I remember the first time I heard that I wasn't supposed to, and there's a fear that you might burst into flames.
Yeah.
If you hear about that and you're not supposed to
Sure.
know yet, if you're not psychological, if you're not OT prepared. Oh, I was very frightened. Oh, wall of fire.
Would they ever tell you stories? Would they ever be like, I knew of this one person who did burst into flames? Or are they not that?
Look, dude, I don't know how old you are, Dodge, but when I was a kid, spontaneous combustion was a thing that we believed in.
South Park episode about it.
If it was real, somebody would have caught it on a camera phone by now.
Yes.
But you remember, like back in the day before camera phones, apparently it happened every other week. Like quicksand. We're also worried about quicksand and spontaneous combustion. No, I don't think that's real. I don't think that anybody ever burst into flames because they heard about the wall of fire.
We did hear a lot of like, this person came back because they were Scientologists last lifetime, and now they're this person.
Well, I marry Sue Hubbard. So.
Yeah.
or no, there were stories about people, like there was a guy who told a story about jumping off a bridge, like to kill himself. And right at the last moment, he realized, I can't fix this. That was the cognition. That was apparently what, and he miraculously survived the jump. And so he's there to say, my Scientology saved me. That was his win, presumably. But that was the thing that he remembered. I don't know why I remember that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just FYI, apparently Emma Robinson wants to ask me a key question. The chat is moving so quickly, I can't keep up. So Emma R, if you want to retype your comment, I will address it.
Yeah, put comment or question in bold caps so we can see them, because there's a lot of chatter.
Talking shit about,
and we're not really following the chatter. We chatted at the chatter earlier.
Like, I'm not going to read Deport Janny 17 times. I don't need to do that. But if somebody wants to ask, yes, do like an actual comment.
See, like this, like ankle spreading false narrative. That's adorable. I love it. I don't know what he's talking about, but I love it.
Talking about this other person named Jessica's infected ankle.
Oh yeah, that's making fun.
See, it just looks like a nonsensical phrase, and I try to make sense of it.
Word clear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Trigger. Plunk.
Why is no one-
Yeah, so I was a summarily bad Scientologist, but I was in my own way devout, which doesn't make sense, especially to Scientologists, because Scientologists think you're only a Scientologist if you're moving up the grades, if you're paying in. You got to pay in. You got to pay in. And I think there was something about it that like that. I was offended by that too. I remember the offers of auditing for certain things that have, oh, we'll get you in session. We'll get you in session. So like people say that to me a lot, but it was money. I didn't realize that at the time. But the reason, and people asked, did you get in the session? No, because I didn't have the money. And so, you know, there's that. Most of the auditing I had was like student auditing, people learning to be auditors.
Yeah.
Which is,
I was
don't know.
actually twins with Danny Masterson's little brother at CC. We did courses together.
Oh, wild, really?
Yeah, we were pretty close back in the day.
What's he like? Was he nice? Or they all like? They all think they're like part of the cool kids group and like?
They were part.
Well, they are cool kids. That's just it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, do they think they're cool kids? They are cool kids.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Jason Lee and couple Mastersons and some Rabisis and Ethan Suplee, and like they hung out. They like in high school. You know, you'd see them. They're over there. They're the cool kids. You're over here at the dunce table, and that's just how it works.
And they owned restaurants and bars, so we were at the right age to be like, "Oh, can we go?" And we would, and so.
Yeah, sometimes you get invited to stuff. Yeah.
That's another thing that I've always wondered. Did you ever lose some of your faith in the strength of Scientology? Because if you follow these celebrities, they seem to be successful for a limited amount of time. And most of them are pretty washed up, minus Elizabeth Moss. It's like Jenna Elfman was in Dharma and Greg once. Ethan
Yeah, actually, to be honest, I am so impressed or surprised the fact that Elizabeth Moss did anything after Mad Men. For
what makes you say
dozen
that?
reasons. Well, for one thing, that show was huge. I mean, John Hamm
Sure.
literally stopped working for years, and
Right.
it's just like just now kind of coming back.
Yeah.
You know, the show is really iconic. It's hard to come off of a show that you're known for like that and
Yes.
do something else just as
Yeah.
an actor. And she did a bunch of little indie movies in between, which was smart of her.
Yeah.
And the Bridesmaids, I mean, the handmaid, I always want to say Bridesmaid, the Handmaid's Tale thing. Yeah, that's a trip that show. I think it's surprising that show is as good or as successful as it is. But
Right.
it's really good. It's really, really good.
They're really lacking celebrities these days.
But they are. It's like Ethan Suplee was in
But
Mighty
see, you
Bell.
have-
like
Yeah. And
That's
Jason
it.
Lee.
No,
And that's
I
the
would
last time we
never-
saw them.
right. Michael Pena. What is he last?
Ethan Emery is another one we haven't seen
I've
in a
never
long
even heard of that
time.
person.
He was one of the Griswolds in the Griswold's Vacation Go to Vegas
so
when they go to Las Vegas. He was the boy Griswold. And he was also in a better movie of note. It's a kind of a quintessential high school movie, but it's not of my generation, so I don't remember it. But Seth Green was in it, and the redheaded girl.
Can't hardly wait.
The redheaded girl from 6 Feet Under. She was in it. Like that's, I think, a better movie, but I don't remember the name of it. There was somebody else I was about to mention too. No, but to Elizabeth Moss and John Travolta's credit, those are people I think that would have been just successful with or without. There's something about what they do and the way that they do it that's effective. And like, I don't see anything particularly Scientological in Elizabeth Moss's career path. I see what anyone who understands like how indie movies works and how you like, because she got that break on that show. And that's what most people would have done. They would have done that show and then either like walked away or expected to just be offered bigger things. And instead she did what like Robin Wright Penn did when she came back. She did a bunch of little movies, little indie movies. You do a bunch of little indie movies. And that's a thing that like, you know, certain people know how to do. The Spirit Award type people know how to do. So that's not about Scientology, in my opinion, but that's how she then stays relevant to the point that then she gets the next show.
Yeah. Emma wanted me to ask you about something, just to read some of the comments.
It was something about Yvonne Jens.
Yeah, she wanted to ask you about Yvonne Chench. I know Heber. I don't know much about Yvonne Chench. Did you know them?
I met Heber Jens once at a function, only because he knew my father.
Did he actually seem nice? He seemed like the one likable. Yeah.
He's like Santa Claus. He was a Santa Claus kind of guy. Yeah.
That's why it's fascinating that they just kicked him to the curb, because you'd think if they treated him well and they still had him as a spokesperson, he'd be so good for the YouTube age.
Yeah.
Because unlike Miscavige, he came off as a really nice, sweet guy.
Yeah.
But,
Miscavige doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't even know. He doesn't know.
Well, that's why I
you know,
wonder why
he's not
people-
very self-aware. Miscavige.
No,
he really
that's-
does. He really does think he is the shits. You know, the cat's meow in 100 ways. Speaking of wait, it's silly, but I just remembered something, Mitch, because you mentioned Mitch Brisker earlier. Mitch Brisker told a story on a feed I saw the other day about being in the gym at Gold, and David Miscavige comes in to the gym at Gold. And when David Miscavige would work out, apparently he'd wear very, very tight workout clothing. And Mitch commented on the lack of package.
Oh my god.
Now, what I thought was funny about this, and tell me if this is an overthink, is if there's a lack of package, I understand that's okay. Let's not laugh at the man. But generally speaking, when there is a lack of package, you don't want to highlight that. And I think what I got from Mitch's story is that David was trying to highlight that. Like he was trying to show off in his wardrobe how much of a lack of package there was. And I'm wondering if that's some sort of like exaggerated brag. Like he can be a badass even without the big dick.
Small package, sure.
Mhm.
Right. Like, look, I can be your boss even with hyperspadia. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Is that an overthink? I don't know.
No, I don't think it is. And I'm curious. Do you think there's any truth to the rumor that he was banging the pretty androgynous Lou?
Right. Of course he would be hooking up with a manly woman, but a lot of the women in the Sea Org, this is true of a lot of weird spaces. You know, you go in the Sea Org, you go to Williamsburg, it's a lot of queer people pretending not to be queer. And you know, there's a lot of gay straight couples, I call them,
Yes.
right? So like, you see that in Williamsburg, you see that amongst hippies, you see that in punk, you see that in the punk world. A lot of like, cause you know, homophobia is large, living large. And so I think that's one of the reasons why people hide out in the Sea Org. I think that's one of the many reasons why people hide out in the Sea Org. I think there's a reason why they tolerate being slaves. I think because they would rather be hiding. You know, my father certainly was hiding. You know what I mean? A lot of the people I know who were in the Sea Org all their lives were hiding from something. And
Karen's ex.
It's the gay. Yeah. Oh, Karen's ex.
Yeah, Karen de la Carriere was married to him.
I saw her in something.
She has a YouTube channel called Surviving Scientology.
It's a good channel. Check it out.
And she's like old school. She's like old school. Like,
she's cool. I've been to her house before and stuff.
Me too. Yeah.
It's
maybe two of the biggest helpers of people getting
she
out.
scared me and and they pulled me in at the same time. What was that?
No, I just said they've been two of the OG biggest helpers of people trying to get out.
Yeah.
From the very
okay.
Really giving them kind of a safe space.
God, the way she was talking, it sounded like she still believed.
Oh, I think she did go through an independent Scientologist stage.
You know, I threw up on myself, and apparently a lot of that was kind of bullshit from what I've heard. And I gotten some documentation saying that somebody kind of created that a little more out of thin air. At least that's the information that I've got.
Yeah. Well, there is a movement somewhere, right? True. There are people who want to like
there certainly
fix it,
Michael
right?
Hobson is a guy in Reddit. He's proudly shout out to Michael Hobson, independent Scientologist.
Yeah,
independent Scientologist.
Yes,
well, that's what they were. That's what they were trying to do back in the day. That's what they were trying to do back.
It's a stopping ground.
The squirrels.
Some, not all.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Some people stay though, because they still believe in the tech. They just think that the church is corrupted now.
Right.
Because of Miscavige.
I think that's dangerous. I think that's dangerous.
Gotta hold them.
I think the church is whatever it might have been was corrupted by David Miscavige, but I don't think the system is salient. I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think what he teaches people is healthy, and especially when you apply it to children.
Yeah.
I want to ask a question that Shadow had, which is really interesting. What's up?
Looking for a friend?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Who joined Scientology.
Yeah, I guess let's read it. I'm looking for a friend who joined Scientology about 8 months ago. I learned that Scientology sold her $1.5 million home. Yikes. Where do they take newbies?
Sounds like she joined the Sea Org.
Yeah, it sounds like she joined the Sea Org.
Wherever she joined.
Yeah, and they want her assets.
Mm-hmm.
But that's weird. It's like, did they bleed her dry with all the ed courses and made her sell her home? And then they're like, well, you could continue if you join the Sea Org because then you get it for free. Is that one of the incentives? It's like after they bleed you dry, they're like, you still have more to do. So just join the Sea Org and you don't have to pay for it.
Sometimes you join the Sea Org and then they bleed you dry.
Well,
If
you're
they
right.
know you have money.
Sure, right. I'd imagine.
Yeah. And if you have assets when you join, they figure it out and they try to weasel them out of you.
Yeah.
This is why I didn't join the CR because.
I mean, they go through your mail, they see your bank statements. It's
Right.
really fucking creepy.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Free zoners. Is that what they're called? Free zoners?
I don't think they
That's
are.
been the accusation.
They're
but I
friendly
don't-
with the free zoners, but I don't think.
Wait. What's a free zoner? I don't even know what that is.
It's the
That's a great
independent
question.
Scientologist.
Oh, that is the independent Scientologist. Okay. Well, they can do what they
Offshoots.
want. I hear that even the e-meters paywall now. You have to pay every year or something to keep it working.
Oh, to get
Yeah,
it
like
serviced.
Something.
Yeah.
No, I mean like it literally stops functioning if you don't pay the upkeep.
Oh,
bill
that's
or something.
really?
crazy.
That's what
Wow.
I heard. I don't know if that's true, but
They
it
have,
wouldn't.
like,
That sounds like something they would do, don't you think?
it is.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
modern because you couldn't do that with an e-meter in 1962.
Yeah.
A friend of mine has one of those, the old wooden ones, just on display in his
wood?
living. Yeah, just
Why?
on display in his living room for no reason other than to point at and go, "Look what I have!" Shit. And what's funny about it is for him, it's a reference to William S. Burroughs
Oh,
because
sure.
there's some famous old photographs of William S. Burroughs on the e-meter.
Really?
I don't think he was
No
ever
way.
a Scientologist. Yeah, with one of
But
the
he hung
old.
out with all of them, right? I guess because Burroughs knew Jack Parsons and Parsons knew.
They all knew each other,
Ron.
so I'm sure they all sucked each other off at some point or another.
Well,
If Burroughs was involved, there was oral sex.
Burroughs
Trust
liked
me,
that.
trust me. I've read a lot of this man's work,
Yeah, I agree.
and we are already questioning L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah, right. What was I going to ask about that? There's a fun comment. ZDT said exactly what he meant to say, or the judge would have thrown it. He is a disgusting, he's a human being. Respect to that. Amen. Oh, what was it? I want to ask you something about L. Ron way back. Oh yeah. Do you think he was, oddly enough, like a revolutionary counterculture figure? And do you, Mike, give him credit for this. Do you think he was partially responsible for America getting desecularized later on? The move away from the Bible, from Christ. Do we largely, because everybody says the 60s is radical, but so was the 50s. Because the 50s, they started thinking we could look beyond the Bible and beyond Christ.
Well, that's the difference. That's the difference between beatniks and hippies, right? The 50s and the 60s.
Certainly, the beatniks started it, right? But right.
Right. But wait, the first thing you said was he an icon of the 60s or whatever? In as much as Charlie Manson is, yes. Right.
A lot of great things, Charlie Manson.
Right. He's not just famous, he's infamous.
I mean, have you heard him with the
Brian Wilson's pretty infamous too.
right?
Anyway, what was the other half of that question? Do I think he might have had something to do with the return to Christianity, or the moving away from? Yeah, he's certainly part of that conversation, isn't he? And early on. When was Dianetics exactly? So
1951, right?
Yeah. So I'm thinking, I would say he probably does have something to do with it. I question the level of influence. See, one of the things that I misunderstood growing up, I thought we were bigger and meant more to the world than we do.
Yeah.
So what the first time I said that to a psychiatrist, for example, that I was born in the Church of Scientology, I expected to get smacked. I expected him to go, oh, one of these, but he had no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So I don't know how far was his reach really. Yeah, a part of a much bigger conversation about secularism, certainly, but I don't know how much influence he had on it. Certainly, I thought he had more influence on it growing up than I believe now, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Ironically, even though the numbers were the highest in the 80s and the late 70s, I would arguably say the most famous, influential part of Scientology had to have been the beginning, because it was front page news. Dianetics in the cover of Time magazine. Yeah. It dramatically gave people a different framework of life and almost liberalized that and 9 other things in addition to rock and roll and Kinsey and everything
No,
else.
that's interesting.
But it
You're
was
right.
that
I guess
intent.
there was a big splash at the beginning. So that's certainly where the notion comes from. But like, fuck, I don't even know what to say to that. It's a funny thing because I really don't
Kind of
know
tragedy, but it's
how
I have to give
much.
credit.
Say
Yeah.
what?
I don't know how tragedy, but I have to give him credit because I only ask because as you notice by the shirt, I love the 50s. Like I know that decade like the back of my hand. And one of the reasons I got interested in Scientology is because of learning about the 1950s. And Scientology was one of the 20 more famous things to happen in that decade. And then you don't hear about its relevance in the 1970s.
Yeah, no.
Religious movement.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have thought. I mean, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that certainly makes sense. But then again, it's like, what is the propaganda and what's the reality? So, like, again, I have to revise, like, my, the narrative in my head is even more grandiose than that. So then I want to go, oh, no, I have to throw all that away. So may I forget that there was some legitimacy to some of this story. So, yeah, okay. So it was a much bigger impact in the beginning than I seem to remember. Okay. Yeah.
Well, it started with Dianetics.
Right.
And Dianetics was the big thing.
But that was different than the whole full-blown religion, the whole, it wasn't even technically.
I guess it makes a little more sense to me now why he thought he could build a religion out of it.
Yeah, because he was famous for 2 years, 1 or 2 years. And he was one of the more famous pop cultural figures of the early 1950s.
Bigger than Tim Leary?
Bigger than what?
Timothy Leary?
No,
the acid guy.
Certainly not. Tune in, turn on, and drop out. No,
yeah, that's
but remember,
see, people remember that.
Sure, and that's right. But that's like, but remember, L. Ron Hubbard was 13 years before him. So a lot of that does. I mean, what I think L. Ron Hubbard was very smart in doing was studying under Jack Parsons and copying and pasting it and taking away the satanic shit. Mm-hmm. So it didn't seem evil, and it seemed like it was a new way to live life where you don't have to be this ultra committed Christian, which used to be the only way of thinking for people in the 1950s. And then people looked at this, the first book was not How to Win Friends and Influence People, but there was a book a year before that's very famous. That's his famous self-help book. And that was kind of the first one. And it taught you how to live and think in a non-religious way, although it had still some religiosity. And then L. Ron Hubbard took it to the next conclusion.
Yeah.
So you're saying I should read Dianetics.
I think you're good. Maybe.
Ron references that book often.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So there you go. So, okay. So that's the book. So
Dale Carnegie. Right?
Dale Carnegie. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Which is the other book?
How to Win Friends and Influence.
Oh no! I was the one he was trying to remember the title. I thought you had it.
That was it. Yeah. So
How to Influence Friends and whenever.
No, there's Vincent Peale. What did Vincent Peale write? They're all around the same time. So now I'll just look at because at least I know the author. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious if I'm it's it's like on the tip of my tongue. It is very famous. Probably The Power of Positive Thinking.
Yeah, I don't read self-help. The Power of Positive Thinking. I don't read self-help.
I'm pretty sure
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, it was. It's Power of Positive Thinking, and then How to Win Friends and Influence People. Mm-hmm. And it's like Dianetics was a direct. It was like
I'm okay, you're okay. Somebody else said I remember that one too.
I don't even know that one. I like that.
I'm okay, you're okay. Yeah, that's very yuppie. That's very 80s yuppie.
It sounds very yuppie.
And then there was Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus.
Right?
Sure. Yeah.
That was a classic. Lord. But it's yes, thank you. It's Susie.
I'm trying to figure out how to segue into vagina monologues.
Cool. Does that have anything to do with Scientology? Is there a vagina monologue Scientology connection?
No, I just said Venus. So Venus with vagina. That's just whatever. I'm crazy. Don't mind me. I was born in a cult.
Mm-hmm. That actually leads me to a question I've always been curious about if any of you ever know. Scientology has produced their little videos. Have they ever, in any of their duration of their existence, have they ever had a local theater and done theater performances, especially if they're trying to create and cradle actors?
That's hilarious. You know what they do? They love is Cuckoo's Nest. One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest.
Really?
They put on productions of that all the time because it paints psychiatry in a negative light. Nurse Ratched is the villain.
Yeah, too. But yes, right.
Yeah. Nurse Ratched is the villain of the story, or
Nurse Ratched,
depending.
have
They
some
love
at
that.
the Garden Pavilion at Celebrity Center, and they do a lot of plays in there.
They do. Okay, interesting.
And
I
they
saw
send
the-
out to a lot of actors, like, come to our free seminar. And it's their way of trying to get young people.
Interesting.
And it works sometimes.
I saw Tool perform in that pavilion.
Mhm.
Wow, really? How are they?
That's so
That's
cool.
badass.
At the time, they were the most amazing thing I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, I bet.
At the time, it really blew me away. I also saw the Pointer Sisters.
Oh, that's
No,
cool.
really? I'll take
in
it.
that
Cool.
pavilion. They performed a Christmas show.
God, they were never Scientologists, I hope, were they?
No, Isaac Hayes used to bring all sorts of people
He was
into
hardcore.
the conversation that wouldn't normally, I think, have been there.
Yes.
There's a question still about Shaka Khan, but
Yeah.
Wow,
So
really?
we're wondering about that. Yeah.
That's
because
upsetting.
I saw her at CC once, and I didn't assume she was a Scientologist. I assumed she was just there to see Isaac Hayes for some reason or whatever. Or like, Isaac would like come by and just have a tour or something like that.
Mhm.
And somebody else said that she was indeed a Scientologist. So I don't know, but I find that Black people are usually smarter than that.
Well, Reverend Alfredi Johnson started bringing his Presbyterian church over, and it started to be a very large Black presence.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. They
Yeah.
just let him come in there?
Yeah, they were like,
Weird.
come on over and bring your church. And then some of them just slowly converted.
And then
Is
there's
that
a
one of
thing.
the reasons it's now like a relationship with the Nation of Islam?
Yes.
Yeah, no. You know what that's about? That's PR. That's about painting themselves as underdogs.
Well,
We're the
but
poor. We're the
Farrakhan is
alternative.
getting all
But
of the
no, but see-
FM commission from that. For
Well,
sending
yeah. I'm
all
sure.
of
I'm
them.
sure there's money involved. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, as far as like the motivation behind the move, I think is about making it, aligning them with this. We're just an alternative. We're just an unusually misunderstood. We're legitimate, but it lends them legitimacy where they don't deserve it.
Yeah. But
The Nation of
Nick
Islam,
NOI
the
isn't-
Muslim Brotherhood, they have more claim to legitimacy than the Church of Scientology. And
Yeah, it's
aligning
pretty
them with
odd
that.
pairing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess you see the connection. It's like the religions that feel like they've been attacked or jettisoned.
Yeah.
There's like a common theme. And I heard there's been a Mormon COS crossover as well.
Oh.
Slightly.
Yeah.
People
no,
mentioned that. I wonder how true
I'm
that is.
surprised there hadn't been. There were Mormons. I knew a lot of ex-Mormons in Scientology.
Interesting.
Oh, Tamara Wilcox. Tamara Wilcox was she was married to like the king of the Mormons. He has some crazy title like dragon or something. And I forget, but she was like wife number 3 to like the head guy. And so she was like, she wasn't having that. She ran away. She ended up in Chicago, and she was part of the group of Chicago who started like the improv thing in Chicago that is still alive today. And she's kind of famous in those circles. And she in Los Angeles taught improv for years and years and years, and made fun of Mormons all the time,
Mhm.
and thought Scientology was so much better. Seemed more like sort of a lateral move, seems like to me.
Yeah, maybe they're just used to being in that kind of high control environment, and so they just fell right in.
But she escaped that environment. Like she was literally the one that ran away because she couldn't deal with being, second best to her, third best or whatever it was to her husband.
Mhm.
And but I don't know. But the Scientology, I don't understand. I don't understand how you leave one crazy. Well, I guess it makes sense. That's like the nature of abuse. You leave one abusive relationship and then walk
Yes,
right into
yeah.
another.
They call it
right?
cult hopping.
Yeah.
Ooh. How lost can one motherfucker be? Oh my goodness, cult hopping! What a horrible idea! What a horrible. Oh, that's gross.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Okay, we got it. Danny doesn't got a fucking job.
Right?
I'm this close to making a record. Danny doesn't have a fucking job, and he cannot prove it.
No, this is all about the other Danny, remember?
I know.
That's
But
how
I'm in-
random these comments are. If you look at the chat, it's like them like starting beef with 3 people that have nothing to do with the stream. Who you don't even know. You probably don't even know who Danny is.
No, I have no idea who Danny
No.
is. Danny
You don't
Masterson?
follow
Danny
him?
Masterson
No.
doesn't have a job. Wait, so what? Danny
I think you
DeVito.
Right. You don't know who Solomon is, I assume.
No, I don't know Solomon.
So this is a message for people who think they're important and they realize in the bigger
Is it-
world, even in the
it's-
Scientology world, people don't know who they are.
It's the basement dwelling trolls that have,
Yes.
idea, what
like
is
to say
it?
the same
Grandiosity, the grandiosity, or
Yes.
delusions of grandeur. That's the one. We don't care about Danny. Oh, I don't.
Respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Linky Lou. Linky Lou is like everybody's here interested in dumb drama while Daniel is telling interesting stories. Come on.
Amen. And how can people subscribe? Just to remind them while we have a bunch of people watching. What is the full name of your YouTube?
Oh, my YouTube is I should remember this. Homeless Mustards. No, wait, it's Daniel Mustard's Homeless Songs, but I'm hashtag Homeless Mustard. If you search Homeless Mustard, you'll find me. That's that's the thing. It's so funny. Some YouTuber kids in the park the other day when I walked my dog and we play with the balls in the playground. And these kids came up and asked if they could ask me a question, and they made a little video. And then at the end of it, I said hashtag at Homeless Mustard, and they were so concerned. It was so cute to me how like, oh, I'm so sorry. They were just immediately like this. Oh my God, they were so sweet about it. And I was like, I'm not homeless anymore. Just that's just the name I go by. It was just so funny to me how they immediately were so sympathetic. It's another thing you're not used to growing up in Scientology. Sympathy is for bitches. Sympathy's for the wicked.
Totally.
Yeah, did they like when you were growing up? Did they just not have certain words or expressions? Like, was there never like you should get a moment to catch your breath or show respect to yourself, or so it just never existed?
No, I didn't know what empathy
What?
meant.
Wow,
That's
really?
What'd she say?
She didn't know what empathy meant. Like empathy was
Honestly, and we've all talked about this. I don't think there's a single one of us who hasn't talked about this, because it is a weird one, because empathy is so important to being human, but you are really, really not just encourage you're forced to fight your humanistics, your human impulses, right? Somebody on the thing the other day was so funny to me in describing my singing, and somebody described it as music with HENR, which is human emotions and reaction, and I read it as music with her. Right. And I thought, oh, that'd be a great title for something, right? Music with HENR is this description of the way I sing. Right. So because that was, just sort of basic human emotions were discouraged and shamed. You were shamed. You were
discouraged as well.
Yeah. Sympathy is low tone, it being a victim, even if you're being victimized is, all that stuff, and then the TR's drills that like train you to ignore your impulses, your natural normal impulses. Ignore your body, ignore, whatever, that idea, the fight or flight, or like, that's part of that is like taking a moment to rest and take care of yourself. Those are the things, those are one of the impulses that you're taught to resist, because you have to work.
Yeah. You're like a machine.
You have to work for the machine, damn it. Work for the machine.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Right.
My therapist asked me the other day about like L. Ron Hubbard's intent. Like, do I think his intention was to do good or to do whatever? And intention is a very, very difficult thing to prove. Even like in court, it's like the most difficult thing to prove. But what I said to her was, I don't know his intention. I really honestly can't say. But what I know is the end result of what he did was that he built himself an army of mindless slaves. So I don't know whatever his intention was, but that's what he did. Is there a good version of that? Is there a working version of that?
You know what? LRH came along during the time of industrialization, and everything was like, all the factories were trying to figure out how to do things quicker and faster. And he pretty much created human beings like machines, like we were industrialized almost. Like there's just no emotion to it. It's just it's robots.
And Vanessa speaks to this often, the dehumanization of not just the language, but particularly our parenting, apparently our relationship with our parents and the way that those people treated us. And then the layers of confusion that creates when you have no idea why people are being cold or why my father can't interact with me because it'll get him in trouble because he's on the RPF. I don't know any of that. All I know is my father is just absolutely denying my presence in the moment, So stuff like that. And it's fine. He's fine with that. He's fine with whatever pain that causes because I'm not really his son, or I'm not really his
Well, you're
charge.
only his son this lifetime.
Right.
So
We're
it
just
totally
right. We're
changes
passing
everything.
souls in the night, and I
Here's
guess
a fun question for the two of you. Have any of you ever gotten the vibes that you had a past life? And if so, what did you learn?
I have had what I thought at the time, and now of course I have to question, but I believe to be past life recall.
Oh.
So not just a sense, but like a what I believe to be.
What was a life?
It was a death, actually.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
I'm pretty sure the only thing, if you're gonna remember past lives, if there is such a thing, I'm pretty sure the only things you remember are traumatic experiences. I don't think you remember sipping tea with mom. I think you remember getting, I got an axe in the back. It was a battle. It was a battlefield. It was horses and blood. And the thing I guess that was the most convincing for me was that I seem to remember how it all smelled. That's the one I wonder about. Yeah, that's the thing that I always think is the most interesting thing about it.
Olfactory remembrance.
Yeah. So
wow.
I don't.
But you didn't know who you're fighting for, or who your boss was, or your friend.
No, it was that quick. Year? It was. There I am. I'm on a horse. I'm aware that there's a battle. I can hear it. I can smell it. I can feel it. It's really early in the morning. I can tell you that. And then suddenly I'm hit and I'm down and I'm dead.
That's it. So and not like you talk to the horse, being like, "Did you eat?"
No, there was no interaction. No. I wasn't. No. I was delivering a speech to all the people. No, they can take our land, but they can never take our freedom. Whatever. No, I just, right. I just, no, it's just that. It was just that instant of death is all I recall.
Interesting.
I had a lot of past life auditing.
Wow. So what do you remember about it?
I remember a car accident.
Okay.
For the last one.
Okay.
And then before that, I remember being in the 60s.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's badass.
It was very detailed.
Wow. Do you remember like what you were wearing and like who you're talking to?
Yeah. And I was with this is all taken with a grain of salt, right?
Sure. But I've never had
well, like I said, if and like I said, like at the time I believed it to be true. And I was even kind of like chuffed with myself, and so was the auditor, and so was everybody else. But I don't, I have to obviously question that. And there's a great deal of, because you are shamed for so many normal things, the things that you are praised for, you want to have good experiences in auditing because that's pleasing to mother. That's a good thing. You'll get rewarded for that. So, having a floating needle was about the only thing I did right.
Yeah. Wow. They believe that Thetans kind of like to stick together, like spirits over time.
Okay.
So in my past life recalls, I was with my best friend, obviously.
Oh, cool.
She didn't look like her, but I could tell it was her spirit.
Wow.
With a couple other people who I recognized who are now this person. So it was interesting. I mean, that could have just been, preface.
Well, I think we all have that. Sometimes you meet somebody and you just click with them. They seem very familiar.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't exactly know why. And so within the Scientology idea is that you've met before.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's because they remind you of you. Sometimes they remind you of somebody you've forgotten about. But I don't know. I don't know. That's the problem. You have to rebuild your whole ideology out of
And you remember walking. You don't remember conversations, do you?
Yeah.
Really? What did you talk about?
So the craziest thing was that one night I was really tired, and we were coming home from a party, and I was with my best friend, and I called our dog November.
Okay.
This
is actually happening
in real life,
right?
And my dog was not called November. I don't know where that came from. And she tells me the next day, she said, "You really scared me last night because I have been going in sessions about our past lifetime, and our dog was November." And
I've
been talking about this. So we definitely had we compared notes. You're not supposed to. We compared,
Right. So it would be a bizarre thing to think that past life recall is possible, and sometimes people do it whether you're on cans or not. I don't know. I don't know. And there's certainly lots of theology.
But it's instances. It's never details. It's never I remember I was dating that person. It was 1967. Or you remember, should I vote for Humphrey or Nixon? Mm-hmm. It was never like that. It was never specific. You never remember specific, actual.
It wasn't biographical information.
Right.
That was a rumor that people would come back and they would say, "My name is so-and-so.
Right.
My folder is
I've heard that. Yes.
Go find it at this org." Allegedly. That's a big part of the lure.
That's
I mean,
interesting.
who
Yeah,
doesn't want to
magic.
remember your past lives?
If they exist, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
I'd
and
wanna remember-
particularly within the Scientology conversation, the idea is that so that you can like pull up information and like have, suddenly my father claimed to have suddenly learned how to remembered how to play the piano after OT5. So like
Oh,
stuff
really?
like that.
Could he actually
That's
play
a
the
big
piano?
thing.
Yeah. But he played when he was a child.
Oh,
So
I
that
mean,
wasn't
you make
his story wasn't exactly the truth. Yeah, none of these people are reliable narrators, myself included. None of these people are reliable narrators. They don't know their own minds half the time.
no.
That's the scariest bit.
That
Yeah.
is the scary part.
I mean, L. Ron Hubbard said that he could make people be able to see like their vision 2020 and all sorts of kind of shit.
Yeah,
It's
See
just
through
not
people. I know people who claim they can see through people, see through walls, see through stuff. People who claim that the Scientology cured their dyslexia and stuff like that. I think Tom Cruise used to claim that, but I don't think he does
Yeah.
anymore. But either way, it's all just bullshit. Often it's just sort of the normal evolution of a person, and they go, "Oh, look, that's because you did OT 6 and 7 and blah blah
Yeah.
blah, and so that's why you grew up." No, you just fucking grew up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the clear cognition is like I take responsibility for the getting whatever. Letting shit get the better of you. That's about as much as it is, right? You have responsibility and keeping yourself. And when you're a child, you don't. When you're a child, you don't. And somebody is there to wrangle you in or put the boundaries up for you.
So sweet.
And that's
That's
part
very
of growing up.
Yeah.
Thanks, CO Bill.
I agree. Kind of work together. Yeah. Thank you, CO Bill.
Yeah. And Margie Barr, I think you're right. I think the intention was to make money.
Yeah.
And I think also to insulate himself. I think he was a very deeply paranoid, scared person. I think that the whole Sea Org thing was about keeping himself surrounded by sycophants and no one else. Sound like somebody else we know, so that he doesn't ever have to like talk to anybody outside his circle. And again, there's a fucked up thing in Scientology. You have friends and you have enemies. There's no in between.
God, that's weird, right? There's no casual acquaintance or that guy's friendly enough, or I'm not a huge fan of that guy, but I just don't want to talk to him and I wish him well. It's right. It's
unless they're in the group. If they're Scientologists, you're allowed to find a way to tolerate people you don't like. But outside of that, they're all enemies if they're not your,
There's no.
I mean, that's what you're taught. You're taught that your friends are only the people in Scientology forwarding the cause of clearing the planet. And everybody else is technically an enemy to that cause and therefore an enemy to humanity. Yeah. And we would be foolish not to count them enemies if they're enemies of humanity, right?
It was very us versus them.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that's part of the head show. That's part of the mind control is like, you really like, it's amazing to me how naive and sheltered you can be even growing up in the heart of Hollywood. It's.
Well, and then again, you're also under the impression that like millions of people thought like you.
Yeah.
So wasn't that weird? What was the moment when you found out Scientologists had less than 30,000 people? Was there ever a tangible moment when you first heard that number?
I ran away from Los Angeles and ended up in the streets. And I don't think it was really until I saw the HBO documentary that I even really started thinking about it too much again. I really tried really hard not to. And I didn't, I did not mention it. I did not tell people. I did not. Yeah. And so for a long, say what?
Hear no evil, see no evil.
I guess I just, and again, I didn't understand that there was something to examine. So I wasn't examining. And it wasn't until the documentary came along, and it wasn't so much that the documentary made me go, oh, that's right. Oh, it is. It was more that I went, oh yeah, that's right. Like I kind of knew everything. There's not a thing in that documentary I was surprised by. It was just kind of like going, oh yeah, you're right. Oh yeah, you're right. Oh yeah, you're right. And then putting that all together and going, oh, fuck, this was not what I thought, So, so what was the question? When did I start?
Was there a moment you found out the actual numbers of it?
Well, again, it was talking to healthcare professionals and realizing how little they'd ever heard of it. I think that was the convincing.
That's interesting.
Was realizing how little the healthcare professionals in the world, at least in New York City, they knew nothing about it. Like I'm telling them about the HBO documentary. They don't even know about, so it was nothing to them. It was not the big enemy. They were not our nemesis. It's like Sam Jackson in Breakable. Like he thinks that Bruce Willis is his nemesis and he's all like, fuck off. I don't even know you. Like, they were not really our nemesis. Or we were not theirs anyway. The IRS probably thinks of us more as a nemesis than the fucking Sykes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ZZ Top guys are like old enough to be my dads, and they're like a foot taller than me both. Not for nothing. And they have a whole lot more beard than I do. Not for nothing.
That's a nice compliment, though. They're badass.
They are badass.
There's mad respect to the ZZ Top guys because they were offered $1 million, like in the 80s when $1 million was a lot of fucking money, to shave off their beards for the razor, some razor company. Yeah, they didn't do it. Fuck them. Yeah,
I love that.
But then I think at some point they used "She's Got Legs" to sell Lady Bix.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, that she's got legs. She sells the razors to the ladies.
That's what counts. Very cool. I think I might need to move on, sadly, because my dog is getting very antsy.
This
Is
dog
it time to
needs
go?
outside.
Yes, antsy dogs run the world, man.
Yeah.
Put that
That's
on
how
tape.
we
do.
end every stream. We're like, all
That's
right,
funny.
this dog wants to go out.
I
I
can
guess
tell.
we gotta run.
Antsy dogs, man. My antsy dog rules my world.
Ain't that the truth? Well, we should do this again in the near future. This is awesome. And
Yeah,
obviously-
nice to meet you. Someday I'll come back to LA and
yeah,
smack y'all around a little, turn your face
please
red.
do. Sounds fun. But we'll do a stream. I'd love it with the three of us again. Obviously, I'm not going to be in Joshua Tree for very long, but let's definitely do this again for the 2% of people shit talking. Fuck y'all. I don't give a fuck. Vanessa's great to have on, so we'll continue to have her on. And
I'm doing another stream with my brother on Sunday, so that should be
cool.
fun.
So
Is
check
that
it out.
tomorrow? That's tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that should
I
be
won't
fun.
be
And
going live tomorrow. So guys, if you want good content, watch Daniel's stream for tomorrow.
we're a trip, the two of us, and we both have again both born and raised in Scientology, but we have very different stories. And maybe some of these trolls will come and join us, and we can yell. At them.
More than
Yeah.
welcome.
I'm sure Jamie be good at yelling at trolls. All right, go walk your dog.
Hey, it's
Have
fun
fun.
meeting all
It's
you
nice to
trolls
meet you,
and
Dodge.
people.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Nice to meet the trolls.
Thanks for hanging.
Yeah, right. I like a troll.
All
Be
right.
clever.